In Marvel Comics, there are plenty of characters who have been cloned over the years, even ones with profiles as high as Spider-Man and Wolverine. In the MCU, we haven't met too many clones, if any at all, but that's neither here nor there. Focusing on the books, I've compiled a list of the 10 coolest clones in Marvel Comics ranked. Let's go! The 90s were an interesting decade for the X-Men and their archenemy Magneto, with the latter being mind-wiped by Professor X and put on the shelf indefinitely. When a villain named Holocaust attacked Magneto's homeland of Avalon, a mysterious man dressed like Magneto appeared to save the day. This man's name was Joseph, who not only looked strikingly similar to a young Magneto, but also had no memories of his past. Putting two and two together, and after becoming a full-fledged member of the X-Men, Professor X figured out that Joseph was a clone of Magneto created at one point by an old foe named Astra. Joseph was eventually killed off, but he was an integral part of the X-Men during his run. One of two Spidey clones on this list, Kaine is, well, a clone of Spider-Man, duh. The old webhead has been cloned more times than probably anybody else in superhero history, and I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, but none more dark and ruthless than Kaine. Spider-Man's foe, the Jackal, has created multiple versions of Peter Parker over the years, and Kaine is definitely the most intriguing, especially with the scars all over his face. Kaine relentlessly hunted down Ben Reilly, who we'll talk about a little bit later on, and even had a stint as the Scarlet Spider himself. Contrary to popular belief, not all clones are biological. Some of them are robotic or mechanical.
I enjoy this game.
Now, some of you might get mad at this notion and claim that a robot would technically be a replica and not a clone, but it's my list, so learn to deal.
It's not.
Anywho, Albert is an android doppelganger of Wolverine and was built by Donald Pierce of the Reavers. After some time, Albert was modified to become even more powerful and break free of the Reavers' control, and he's done battle with the real Wolverine many times since. Albert has also been presented as somewhat of an anti-hero, fighting against villains and the Yakuza in subsequent storylines. Most clones are created by evil villains and mad scientists, but this next entry on our list was created by an all-powerful force of life, death, and rebirth. As I'm sure you all know, X-Man Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix when being used as a host for the Phoenix Force. In one instance, Jean Grey attempted to sacrifice herself in order to save her teammates, but the Phoenix Force said, "Nah-uh," and kept the mutant alive. Well, sort of. The Phoenix Force actually created a perfect duplicate of Jean, who then took her place entirely. Phoenix Jean placed regular Jean in suspended animation, and eventually became the Dark Phoenix, yada yada. You've probably seen a movie or two about this. Jokes aside, although Dark Phoenix wasn't a conventional clone, she was innately the exact same as Jean, down to her heroic and caring nature. Nathaniel Essex is Mr. Sinister.
My name is Sinister.
An iconic X-Men villain geneticist who is obsessed with mutation and clones. Mr. Sinister loves clones so much, he even cloned himself 3 times. Mr. Sinister is such a sinister mister that he's also obsessed with creating the perfect mutant, opening a series of orphanages in order to experiment on children. Mr. Sinister has been a staple X-Men villain for years, but more recently, he's been dealt with and banished to the pits of Krakoa. Madelyne Pryor is one of Jean's clones, and was recently given the throne of Limbo by magic. All before leading an attack on New York City alongside fellow clone Ben Reilly, who again, we'll talk about in a minute, so hold your horses. Madelyne was created by the previous entry on our list, Mr. Sinister, and not only does she look just like Jean Grey, she even has the same taste in men, marrying Scott Summers and having a child with him named Nathan. The Stepford Cuckoos are powerful telepathic clones created from the DNA of Emma Frost.
We don't need to.
Each sister is mentally linked to the other, and are most dangerous when they act in concert. Much like Emma Frost, the Stepford Cuckoos are frosty ice queens known for their beauty, fashion sense, and cutting verbal barb.
Yes.
Much like other entries on this list, Wolverine has a solid handful of clones running around pulled straight from his DNA. Weapon X had no problem exploiting Logan, so much so that they even made him daughters he didn't know about. The most unique of his female clone offspring is Gabby, aka Scout. Gabby only has one claw, but possesses Wolverine's requisite healing factor and super senses. Finally, it's Ben Reilly time.
Now I'm here.
Also known as the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly is one of Peter Parker's many clones, and has even taken over as the official Spider-Man a time or two. Despite hating on the Clone Saga for the most part, fans really do like Ben Reilly, who has more recently become the supervillain known as Chasm. As I mentioned earlier, the Goblin Queen Madelyne Pryor teamed up with Reilly, and the two tried to invade New York with Limbo. Last but certainly not least, Laura Kinney is another one of Wolverine's clone daughters and has even become known as Wolverine herself. Originally known as X-23, Laura is different from her fellow clones in the fact that she was created using the combination of Logan and Dr. Sarah Kinney's DNA. This means Laura is not an exact clone, but she isn't also fully Wolverine's offspring. Laura is an amazingly popular character. In the comics, she's a member of both the X-Men and X-Terminators, and is successfully living up to the mantle of her father. And there you have it, the 10 coolest clones in Marvel Comics ranked. Did we leave any out? Tell us in the comments section below, and be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss any cool comic content.